with another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick, joined as always by Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. We have quite a lot to get to today. We have some news, some injury reports. We'll break down the offensive and defensive side of the ball heading into Sunday's game against the Detroit Lions at 1 p.m. from Gillette. We'll quickly touch on some Thursday Night Football action tonight, and then we will open up the chat for, we're going to bring back a segment that used to be on this show, some live Q&A. So we'll get the chat going, answer your questions. So got a lot to get to on this lovely Thursday. So we will start right off the top with today's Patriots news of the day. Unfortunately, we got a little bit more clarity in the quarterback room. Brian Hoyer was placed on IR. He will miss a minimum of 4 games. It also likely means Bailey Zappi gets to start this Sunday, depending on Mac Jones' status. And once Mac Jones comes back, it looks like Bailey Zappi is going to be the backup quarterback here for a little while moving forward, depending on what happens with Hoyer.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a couple ways you can go with this. I think it's an encouraging sign that Mac Jones is closer to coming back. I still think we're a week away before we can really start to have that conversation. But, you know, they either feel really good about Bailey Zappi or they know Mac Jones is coming back soon, or both. Or, I mean, it is a concussion, right? It is a concussion. Right. He might just have a bad one. And it didn't look like that, right? When the injury happened, he kind of got up. I don't even think there were any indications initially until he got to the sideline and the spotter started talking to him. But, yeah, I think that's a strong sign. We're going to see Bailey Zappi start this week, and that Mac Jones is maybe the initial window was without surgery on the high ankle sprain, 4 to 8 weeks. I think we're maybe looking at, 3 to 4 at this point. So,
yeah,
you don't want to call it encouraging, obviously. You hope Brian Hoyer's okay and all of that, but aside, more clarity, I think, at the quarterback position with this move.
Yeah, definitely. I think you look at some video that came out the last few days from practice that you guys had down there, and Mac still looks pretty gimpy on that left leg. He's out there. Well. He's limited in practice. He's not a DNP, which, again, that's more clarity in the room. It looks like a good sign, but he's gimpy. He's not. Go ahead.
I just would caution people, there's different levels of limited, right?
Sure.
Limited can mean you did everything but the, kickoff drills at the end of practice. Limited can mean you did just the first drill and that was it. So I would guess, and this is just a guess, I would guess he's doing less than more at practice.
I would agree.
Even though he is limited.
It's them using the injury report to their advantage, 100%.
Right.
If he does absolutely nothing by league rules, it's mending the rules a little bit. If he does absolutely nothing,
he didn't participate.
He has to do it. It has to be a DNP. So that's them doing their thing there. But yeah, again, he's not putting all the weight on that left foot. He's still flat-footed. So
right.
Again, we'll get into it more when we preview the offense versus this atrocious Detroit defense. But looking like it's likely to be Zappi time again on Sunday. So again, wish the best for Hoyer, obviously, but that's what the QB room looks like. Pats have made a few variety of moves since our last show on Monday
night. And actually,
night.
I think at the other quarterback, I don't know if you're going to get to, I was going to say adding into the quarterback room, Garrett Gilbert too, who they signed,
we'll talk more about the QB room,
okay.
But that's, I guess we can get into that as another move they've made this week, as they brought in Garrett Gilbert, who had been here in the past, I believe his 3rd stint with the team. He is, we know Barth's a college football guy. He came in for Colt McCoy in that,
he's considered.
I forget what bowl game it was, but he
it was national championship.
It was the national championship against Alabama.
He was considered when he was in high school, arguably the greatest Texas high school quarterback of all time. He put up like insane numbers, went to Texas, and he got hurt a little bit. Never really panned out. But a good guy. He's been here. He's familiar with the offense. He said today he feels comfortable with the offense.
And that's what Belichick said too when he was askst about it. They said, why'd you bring in this guy? He said because he was available. So someone that knows the system.
You could do worse than a fourth string quarterback. You never want to be on your 4th string quarterback. And I know this for everybody's gonna be like, he's hyping up the 4th string quarterback. What a homer. Like they didn't have to go to James Morgan, right? They didn't have to go to David Blau. They didn't have to go to, I'm trying to remember who else was on that insane list that I published on Monday on 98.5thesportshub.com. They didn't have to go. They're somewhere right above dumpster diving with Garrett Gilbert. Right. Might be recycling bin diving. but I wouldn't call it dumpster diving.
Well, he's a guy who's played in the league too, right? So if you have to go to him, he has reps. Taylor
He's
Kyles,
played in the
who
league and
does,
he's played in your offense. Yeah.
yeah, I saw this on Twitter. Taylor Kyles does some film work for us here on CLNS, but he had mentioned just that, like you said, Gilbert's a guy who he made a couple starts maybe 2 years ago with the Cowboys, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that rotation down, that's another QB room with a ton of names, different
Right.
names that come through: Cooper Rush and Garrett Gilbert, etc. But yeah, so looks like if Matt can't go, that Garrett Gilbert will dress for the Patriots on Sunday as their
Well,
emergency backup.
I think he'll dress as the no, I think he'll. Oh, if Matt can't go, you're right. Yeah.
If Matt can't go,
But yeah, again, they didn't have to go to Danny Etling, Jeff Driscoll,
right.
Jordan Ta'amu, Kyle Sloter, Chase Garbers. I finally found my list. Like,
yeah, there it is.
They're one step above that.
Right. So yeah, that's where the QB room's at. Another big move this week. Rookie wide receiver Tyquan Thornton is eligible on the lower third here and has been designated to return from the injured reserve. Thornton obviously had an amazing camp. He was the talk at training camp this year. He looked really solid, runs smooth routes. He has soft hands, gets off the ball fast. He's a guy who brings a lot of hope to this interesting Patriots receiver room, to say the least. So he returned to practice this week, and it looks like he'll be able to. He has 21 days? Is that correct, to return to game action?
Yeah, so that essentially gives them a 4-game window because of the way the calendar works. The latest he would be back is the Jets game, which is week 8. Is the absolute latest we would see him.
Yeah, so that's another good sign coming in from another Patriots rookie who was impressive early on. Any thoughts on Thornton coming back? Just what they can potentially do with him down the road, and if he ends up getting the reps we thought he was going to before the season started.
It's exciting. I mean, they've kind of turned into more of a spread offense at this point. At least that's sort of what they were doing before Matt got hurt. But expect to see more of it with Bailey Zappi under center. If you're going to do that, I mean, that's about stretching the field horizontally as much as it is stretching the field vertically. So the more speed you have on the field, the better. And when you can throw out, if they do this, Nelson Aguilar, Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, that's a ton of speed on the field. You can have fun with that. I don't think Thornton's going to be back this week.
No,
I would be surprised. Again, they have 3 weeks to bring him back. The return to play timeline when he had the surgery was 6 to 8 weeks. It was 6 weeks from the surgery this Monday. So he's still on the really early end of that.
Yeah.
He had a walk through practice. And we don't know how involved he was. He's not on the injury report, but we don't know, how involved he was, but it was a walk-through practice on Wednesday. There's a big difference between participating in a walk-through practice and playing in an NFL game. So I think he'll be back. I think they want him back. I think this week is a stretch. I think next week we start talking about it maybe a little more realistically. And then really in 2 weeks against the Chicago Bears, which also times out based on return from IR, could be N'Keal Harry's first game with the Chicago Bears, which would come back in Foxborough.
Foxborough will be bumping that day.
The biggest return for a former Patriot to Foxborough since who knows when, has to be years, could also be Tyquan Thornton's first game back. So I'm excited, but I would just tell people, we're probably still a week or two away. I would be very surprised if he gets activated this week.
Definitely. It's exciting. There's Twitter buzz surrounding it, but, temper those expectations from now. It'll still be a few weeks coming down for Thornton. Moving on here, one more quick news item, roster transaction. Marcus Cannon, who was signed to the practice squad a few weeks ago, elevated last week and ended up coming in to spell a struggling Isaiah Wynn, was officially promoted to the 53-man active roster. So that it just, again, adds another body to that offensive line that is hot and cold. Every guy on there seems to be hot and cold. They're great when they're great and they're bad when they're bad. So Cannon brings another aspect to the O-line there with, Wynn struggling.
Yeah, and I think he pushes Isaiah Wynn a little bit. Look, Isaiah Wynn got benched last week. There's no way around it. He got benched. He did not play well. Probably his worst game as a pro.
Yep.
Pressure's on. Pressure's on this week. And I know we'll get into the matchups in a little bit, but you can't, let's just read the tea leaves here, Mike. And Bill's not telling us anything directly, which I know is sometimes even that's not enough for you. Which by the way, I joke. I like Mike. I joke.
Of course.
But
of course.
Let's read the tea leaves here.
No, it's true, though. Yep.
Isaiah Wynn just had potentially his worst game as a pro. He got benched. They promote a longtime Belichick favorite from the practice squad to the active roster. now Wynn's going to be facing a rookie this week in Aiden Hutchinson. Pressure's on, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this on Tuesday. They're not going to bench Wynn after that one game, but the benching is kind of a wake-up call like, hey, you got to get it together. If he comes out and gets punked by a rookie, and I know Aiden Hutchinson was the second overall pick, but he's a rookie.
Yeah, he's not just a rookie, but sure.
He's a rookie.
He's a rookie, exactly.
Right. If he comes out and gets punked by a rookie after that Marcus Cannon is going to be right there. So I think that this is a sign that they maybe see here's the thing. If you leave Marcus Cannon they could leave Marcus Cannon on the practice squad and elevate him, but you can only do that 3 times. You do that for a guy
this means he's long-term.
Right. You do that more for a guy who's a matchup guy. They clearly have, like you said, a long-term, concrete, week-to-week role in mind for Marcus Cannon. Is that 6 tackle set? Is it pushing Isaiah Wynn for the job? Is it one and then maybe the other? We'll find out. But I think the heat's really on Isaiah Wynn this week. He's somebody who's got to come out, and he's got to have a big game. Ideally, in a perfect world, we don't hear Isaiah Wynn's name once this week. That's the kind of game he needs to have, where he's taking care of Aiden Hutchinson. He's not committing penalties. He is just doing his job, and he is off the radar. That's the kind of game you're looking at with him. And it's going to be interesting because one of the things Hutchinson does incredibly well, one of the reasons he was the second overall pick, he gets out of his stance real quick. He is up and go. And, facing a guy that has 3 false starts in 4 games, that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, building off the penalties and whatnot, right? Wynn, reading a stat from Zach Cox from Nesson today, Wynn leads the Patriots with 6 penalties. Second on the team is 14 other guys tied with just 1. So not only is it, is he getting physically outmatched, but he's also getting mentally outmatched on the field. He is just, he has not been great so far for the Patriots. So again, Marcus Cannon coming in, it's going to push him, hopefully, to do better. And like you said, too, it's looking more so like a long-term answer. So reading those tea leaves, Wynn has to impress this week, like you said, against a rookie,
right?
To be able to ultimately keep his job here. Do you think, and it's tough, everyone's talked about it forever, Isaiah Wynn trades, trade deadline coming up relatively soon, I want to say, and he's not playing well, but where would you say his trade value even could be at this point, moving forward, especially with the elevation of Wynn?
Not high. Right? Not high enough to justify trading him. Because there's no tackle depth in the league. I mean, there's a tackle. Sure, we just assume, all right, there's 32 teams. Each team needs at least 6 tackles. That's going to be whatever 32 times 3 is, right? We just assume. Now I got to do
neither of us can do it off the top of our head.
Belger and Maz rule. This is why you don't do math live on the air. You just assume, all right, every team needs at least 3 tackles. There's going to be 96 NFL caliber tackles in the NFL. Think about it. Why? Why do we assume that? It's not necessarily true. There's going to be at least 96 tackles in the NFL. They might not all be NFL caliber. You see this at every position. There's ebbs and flows where positions are really good, and then they go through windows where there's not a ton. We just came out of, honestly, a cornerback drought. There was a cornerback drought for a couple of years in the NFL. That's kind of cleared up in the last 2 or 3 seasons. There was a quarterback drought in the NFL. As recently as a couple of years ago. Offensive line, I think, is a position that for a long time there was a surplus. There's not a surplus right now. There's a deficit of offensive linemen. So Wynn, at the very least, again, does he get benched? Maybe, but he's still he gets benched. He's a high caliber backup player.
Right.
You're selling so low on him that I don't think it makes sense to deal him at this point, unless maybe if they still had Justin Herron, it changes the conversation a little bit.
Right,
but
they traded a tackle so far this season. So
if they trade Wynn, including the practice squad, they're down to 2 tackles. That's not enough, and you still got to go out and get another tackle. So I just don't think his value. The time to do it was at the end of training camp. If they were going to do it, I think what you're seeing right now is why they didn't. And he's going to be here for the rest of the year. I would be shocked. And look, if somebody comes in and wants to give him a 2nd round pick, go for it. But I just don't think the offer is there where it's realistic for them to trade him.
Yeah. Looking like you said, a Wynn trade won't happen, but regardless, it's a big week for him against the Detroit Lions. All right, so that's the news. Let's quickly do some injury report news too, because it's another week going into week 5 that, there's a lot of injuries for both teams, but mainly the Lions. We'll go through the way I think we'll do it is we'll go through some key players on the Lions since theirs is longer, and then we can go into we'll quickly go through everyone that was on the Pat's injury report today.
Yeah.
So some DNPs from Detroit Lions practice today. Notable linebacker specialist, Bill Belichick guy, Chris Board, did not practice with a knee injury. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was a fantasy football stud throughout the first couple of weeks, also did not practice for the second day in a row. And running back DeAndre Swift was also a DNP today. So,
and I believe Jeremy Fowler reported he doesn't expect Swift to play this week.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at too. Is that it was looking like Swift's shoulder and ankle was kind of a let's sit him down let's not quite IR him because we want to be able to bring him back within 4 weeks, but it's going to be at least a 2-week deal for Swift. So DeAndre Swift will not play. That'll elevate Jamal Williams into the starting role for the Lions. But again, St. Brown, that's a big miss. And then I guess another special teamer who Belichick loves is looking like he is going in the wrong direction this week.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'll just go off the guys who are practicing too, because I think it all ties in together. Their big offensive weapons are DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and TJ Hawkinson. And none of those guys practiced on Wednesday. Hawkinson came back today.
Practiced today. He was limited. Yeah.
And I'm writing about this. It'll be up tomorrow morning on 985thesportshub.com. My key matchups for the week. There's a lot of guys in key spots dealing with injuries. If Hawkinson's the one guy, big tight ends have kind of killed them. The Patriots here these last couple of weeks. Mark Andrews caught that touchdown. Robert Tonyan caught that touchdown.
Yep.
Hawkinson is, he's probably on par, maybe a step below Andrews. He's a step above Tonyan for sure.
Yeah,
he's a guy you got to worry about.
Second tier. Yeah,
right.
Solid. So right.
I think you look at Kyle Duggar here, and Duggar obviously missed that game 2 weeks ago against the Ravens, and he had a limited role last week against the Packers as he's working his way back from his knee injury, and he's been limited all week. That could be a big matchup. If Hawkinson plays and the Rams throw the ball, and look, they're going to try to run to win this game. Yep. Are they going to be able to do that? We don't know. At a certain point, you'd think they're going to have to throw. So you need somebody on Hawkinson. Yep. That's Kyle Duggar if he's healthy, and you've seen the result, right? I know everybody says the Patriots have been horrible against tight ends this year. They were fine the first 2 weeks when Kyle Duggar was healthy, and then they weren't when Kyle Duggar wasn't. I wonder if those two things are related. Spoiler alert, they are. So seeing Hawkinson come back to practice, I think of those three guys, he probably has the potential to do the most damage specifically against the Patriots. Well, Swift does because they run the ball a ton and they're a run-first team, but Hawkinson more than St. Brown has, I think, more potential to do damage against the Patriots. So I think it could be a big game for Kyle Duggar. If he's back to, maybe not 100%, but 90%, he played about 50% of the snaps last week. He's generally a guy whose usage rate is above 80, maybe touching 90. They could use that kind of performance from him this week. So I'd say that's my big takeaway from the injury report today is that Hawkinson looks like he's back. So for the Patriots, it would be really big to have Kyle Duggar back.
Definitely, yeah. We'll get into those again. We'll get into those matchups a little bit more down the road here when we go more heavy into offensive defense. But like you said, Hawkinson limited. Look for that matchup with Duggar, and then two other wide receivers for the Lions were also limited in DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds. Who, this Lions team on offense amazes me because they lead the league in yards, or not yards. They lead the league in points per game, and it's a bunch of kind of fine receivers. I mean, Amon-Ra has been a stud, but even he didn't play last week, and guys like Josh Reynolds and Chark didn't even play last week, so it was Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond, the kid from Holy Cross. So they're making it happen regardless in the wide receiver room. But those guys were limited today. Looked like DJ Chark said he will play, so that's another one to look out for. Taylor Decker, full participant, one of those bookend stud tackles for the Lions.
Well, so the interesting one up front to me is Ragnow, because they do
him too.
The majority of their running they do not just between the tackles, they do between the guards. I mean, this is old school. I'm gonna love this game. This is old school, biting kneecaps, right? Dan Campbell football. Ragnow's already missed a game this year. He's dealing with a foot injury, DNP on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. If he's out, give me Devon Godchaux and Christian Barmore against the backup center. That could potentially be a major advantage for the Patriots. So, and it sounds like even if Godchaux does play, he's not Godchaux. Even if Ragnow does play, he's not going to be 100%. Godchaux has been on the injury report as well with a back injury, but that's another spot where the Patriots could potentially, normally an advantage for the Lions, the Patriots could potentially flip in this game.
Yep, Frank Ragnow, a Arkansas Razorback. Is that correct?
That
I
sounds right.
think he was an Arkansas Razorback, and he was definitely a guy who many people had mocked to the Patriots.
I remember him being a
Definitely
big Patriots guy in that draft. Yep,
an
Arkansas, good call.
Arkansas Razorback, an IOL guy or an
Yeah,
interior offensive lineman who Belichick froths at the mouth over.
yeah.
So
All pro in 2020.
yes, a legit interior offensive lineman. So that would also be a big miss for the Lions.
Yeah,
Let's get into the Pats. They had 4 guys that did not practice at all today. Brian Hoyer obviously went to IR. We already touched on
right.
that. Lawrence Guy with the shoulder injury did not practice. It's looking slim pickings for him again this week. DeMarcus Mitchell, another guy with a concussion, did not practice. Likely will not play. And then oh no, I'm sorry. There was 3 today. Jonnu
3,
Smith.
yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah. So that's the 3 that did not practice. Limited. We'll go for each one. We'll start with Kyle Duggar, who limited today, but that could be a like you said, a matchup guy against Hawkinson this week.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I think. Do you just want? I let's do this. I'll just kind of give you my big ones from the list, and you give me yours.
yeah,
If people
yeah,
want to
do it
find
up.
the full injury report, it's on my Twitter at Real Alex Barth. So a couple guys that stand out. Obviously, Mac being limited is notable, although he's still limping quite a bit. Jonnu being back, even in a limited sense, given the report earlier this week that he was week to week, I think that's encouraging. He's got the low ankle sprain, but he seemed
Yep.
to be moving around okay today, so that's good to see. Like we only saw stretching today, but I mean, he was fully involved in the stretching, so I would call that encouraging.
Yeah.
I kind of gave my spiel on Duggar already as it relates to TJ Hawkinson. The other big one for me is Jacoby Myers, right? He's missed the
Yeah.
last 2 games, sounded optimistic last week he was going to play, so you feel like he's close. Bailey Zappi, like if they want to make Zappi comfortable, assuming he starts, and they want to mimic that spread that he ran at Western Kentucky, it was heavily involved in the slot. I don't remember if I gave Jareth Stern's numbers on the last show, but I'll do it again.
We
Last
talked
year
about
with
him.
Bailey
Yeah.
Zappi, right? In 14 games, 15 catches,
Yeah.
1,900 yards, 17 touchdowns. Patriots didn't really have a slot last week with Jacoby Myers out. They kind of did everything on the boundary, everything on the perimeter. They did a lot of that 6 offensive line stuff, right, with Marcus Cannon as that tight end eligible. If you really want to make Zappi comfortable, you want to make him feel at home, give him a slot receiver to throw the ball to. Obviously, Jacoby Myers has potential there. We can talk about his coverage matchup here in a little bit, but I think having him back, if Zappi is going to start, could be massive because it could be a big-time volume day for him where if he's out, you're either erasing the slot altogether or you're going maybe speed slot with Nelson Aguilar, but that's not really a fit for what
It's
Zappi
not real.
did.
Yeah. Right.
Or you're throwing LJ Humphrey the ball 10 times, which I'm not necessarily entirely against, but I'd rather have it be Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I agree. That'll definitely be able to open up their playbook more with what they're going to try and do. It's which is like what is likely Zappy this week. Maybe some heavy running, but also take some shots when they have to. And him having that comfortable slot that he had in college is definitely something to look at. The last one that I was waiting on to see, we'll see what happens come Sunday, is Jalen Mills again. Still limited with the hamstring. Jack Jones stepped up last week, as we know, at the boundary corner, but if he can't go, we mentioned it several times on here. I tweeted about it and wrote about it on clnsmedia.com. Just that he's a guy who, for better or for worse, is a ball hawk. So he can have a great day when he's ball hawking well, and he can have a really bad day if he's not. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast at that position. So it'll be interesting to see if he has to go as a start outside against what is comparable, but probably a better receiver room than what the Packers have.
You think so? Without assuming St. Brown doesn't play.
It's going to depend on St. Brown. It depends on Amon-Ra. I think Amon-Ra puts them over the top.
Yes, if he doesn't play, I'd say advantage Packers all day.
Agree. Yeah.
The other thing though that's interesting with Jones in this game is, I mean, the big red flag with him last week was the tackling. He had issues tackling, and it's clearly something he needs to work on. We talked about this last week. It's the case for a lot of young corners, but he's not there yet. They need 11 guys swarming to the ball this week in that running game, right? Not only the Lions, they're running for 5.9 yards per carry. There's still a long way to go. But Mike, do you know the last professional football team, and I'm using that qualifier very carefully, do you know the last professional football team to run for 5.9 yards per carry in a season or better?
It's going to be a team that's no longer a team anymore. Yeah.
They are still a team. The league doesn't exist anymore. It's the the 1948 San Francisco 49ers in the All-American Football Conference.
Oh, I remember that season.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Which later
Right,
merged
yeah.
with the NFL. The point being, the Lions can run the crap out of the ball. They do it in a lot of different ways. They block well, but those backs know how to pick up yards after contact. So again, that's guys swarming to the ball, finishing tackles, textbook tackling. We didn't really see that from Jack Jones last week. So it will be interesting to see how much he's on the field and kind of what sort of responsibilities they give him when they need all 11 guys on the field moving to the football and tackling and being in that kind of mindset this week. That doesn't mean he can't play. I don't want this to be like, hey, he can't be on the field, but something that something they need this week aligns with one of his weaknesses. So it's going to be interesting.
Right.
He played all but one snap last week. I would think that percentage goes down a little bit. If Mills plays, it's going to go down significantly. It's going to go down to about 50%.
Right.
Without Mills, I still wonder if you see some sets where, maybe Jabril Peppers is playing some slot corner to just get them a little bigger on the field, things like that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, well, again, that slot corner position we touched on a lot on Monday night, just kind of how Miles Bryant struggled. But maybe some Marcus Jones,
so
I don't know.
Here's the thing. Miles Bryant is a pretty good tackler.
Yeah.
Or is a pretty willing tackler. Marcus Jones, it's tough to
We've
tell.
yet
We
to
haven't really
see it.
seen him do it at the NFL level. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He was a fine tackler in college. I wouldn't call it a strength or a weakness. He was about average. So I know people don't want to hear this. In some ways, this is sort of a game where you might want to see Miles Bryant on the field a little bbit, just because he's going to give you more against the run. Yeah. It's third downs where I think they need to look like this week. We can have this conversation again next week in a more big picture basis, but this actually is a game where I think maybe you play Miles Bryant a little more. And then on third, in the obvious passing situations, I'd still like to see them try Marcus Jones, but first down, second down, third and shorts, this actually isn't the worst game to have Miles Bryant on the field. I know people don't want to hear that. And, don't turn this into Alex Barth says Miles Bryant should play 100% of the snaps, but he's actually going to give you something you need situationally this week if they put him in those right situations.
And they especially need it on those third downs too. I think they're letting up third down conversions 46 and change percent of the time.
Yeah, they're towards the bottom of the league.
Yeah, and that would be the second worst in the Belichick era. So they need that, like you say, they need the tackling. So I mean, that Jalen Mills, I'm watching that Jalen Mills.
Jalen Mills, by the way, excellent tackler, would be a great guy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's what I'm saying. So we'll see where that goes. But so that's that for the news and the injury reports. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors at LinkedIn, and then we will deep dive into the offense and the defense. So as I've said before, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. We've all been through the job hunt, Alex, obviously, several times here now as we slowly get older. It's not fun, but LinkedIn makes it much easier for these folks trying to post their jobs. That's super easy to post your job as an employer. You can add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and you can spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. We're nearing the end of 2022 here, and the right team member can be the perfect addition to help your company finish the year strong. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat. That's linkedin.com/beat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, as always, apply. Let's start with the offense, Alex. And I think we can I think we're both on the same page here, and we can get this out of the way right away that Mac Jones is not playing this week for the Patriots.
It's more likely than last week, but I would be pretty surprised. Again, so the difference from last week to this week, just having been in practice, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, last week we didn't see him move. He stood there, he threw a couple balls, but it was only from the waist up, right? Feet just kind of facing forward. He's throwing the ball with his full body, and he actually looks okay doing it now, but he can't really move outside of that. And why that matters is, let's say you have a 2-minute drill for the game. You got to go in a hurry up. you can't have your quarterback limping up the field, right? He's got to be able to, get on the field, get off the field. You want to be, your quarterback needs to be able to move. Even if it's not in plays, he needs to be able to move in between plays. So, and even within plays too, I'd say.
Well, one of Mac's strengths is moving around in the pocket. I mean, he does that rather well. He finds his lanes and he gets away from pressure when he can. We know he's not the fastest guy, but he has a feel for the pocket, and that's
and not just that. You can't have a guy. I guess this is probably what I should have started with. You can't have a guy back there who can't move. Right. And look, Tom Brady doesn't really move, but he's used to it. It's part of his game. And I'm not to compare Mac to Brady, but there's so few of these statuesque quarterbacks. Right. I could say, I go back to guys like Peyton Manning, guys like that who just stood in the pocket and that's all they did. But, quarterback's legs are a big way quarterback protects himself. Being able to kind of scramble and move around away from rushers. If he can't do that, you're seriously risking him hurting himself more. Not necessarily in the sense that he's going to re-aggravate the ankle, but he's going to get himself lined up for a shot. Who knows what's going to happen? He gets hit hard. So it does look like if it was flag football and he just had to stand back there and throw the ball, he could do it. The rest of it, I just don't know yet. I think he's still a week away before we seriously have that conversation.
Yeah, and if you don't know what me and Alex are entirely talking about, you can check out the video I tweeted. I took it from Mike Giardi from NFL Network, but then I kind of tweeted a close-up. And there was also another one from NBC Sports Camera Guys today.
Look, everybody, there's no shortage of pictures.
You can find it. But what I'm saying is if you don't know what we're talking about, you can find it out there where you see that, obviously, when you walk, right, your toes curl on both feet. Mac's left foot is flat-footed, and he's just
being
moving
very
up and down. He's not.
It's interesting you say that
at all. Yeah,
I was talking to somebody today. He's clearly very aware of his toes right now.
Exactly right.
And so that's not great.
Yeah, it's not a good way to want to have to try and play the quarterback position, especially. So looking like the Bailey Zappi show on Sunday. It's happening. I've said it several times on Twitter now, and it's absolutely hilarious.
You know who had good Bailey Zappi puns of being dead serious?
Yeah.
Dietrich Wise. When we talked to him yesterday, half the press conference was just him making Bailey Zappi puns.
It's good stuff. It's fun. It's a fun name.
He's such a fun guy. He's great.
Oh, yeah. I had spoken to him a few times during camp, and I'll actually be down at Gillette tomorrow afternoon for some in-person coverage for CLNS Media, so you can check that out on Twitter. But I'm excited to hopefully get a chance to speak with Zappi again just about the potential for Sunday, because like we said, it's looking like it's going to be the Zappi show. So the Patriots and Bailey Zappi and Matt Patricia at the helm are going against the league's worst defense. I almost said the world's worst defense, which it also
might
is.
be.
Yeah, exactly. They're letting up 35.
It's them or the Colorado Buffaloes.
Exactly, yeah. And they're letting up 35.3 points per game, which is worse than the NFL. Their pass defense only has one interception. The Giants are the only team with zero. Besides that, they're second worst in turning the ball over as a pass defense, and their run defense is even worse. They're letting up 5.6 yards per carry, and they've let up 10 rushing touchdowns, which is those are both the most as a defense. So it looks like, I've thought about it more this week, the way they're going to try and win this game, because have Zappi at the helm. We talk about a spread system at both Houston Baptist and Western Kentucky, where he was just slinging the ball across the yard, led the NCAA in passing yards and touchdowns last year. So
how do they set single season career records?
Correct. So
right.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He beat Joe Burrow. I like putting it that way, that's because then people have to go there because he beat Joe Burrow. He did better than Joe Burrow. You say it that way, it gets people freaked out.
Yeah, who many said had the best season ever when they went and won the national championship with LSU that year. So Zappi can sling the ball from a spread offense perspective, but is that really what they're going to do? The more I thought about it, the way Belichick likes to, enter these games when their backs are against the wall like this is they're going to establish the run as much as possible, especially against this Lions defense. But I still think they have to throw when they can.
They do have to. And look, the Lions are going to score. So they can't eliminate the passing game. Mm-hmm. What I think is interesting is where Bailey Zappi actually sort of looked his best last week, and it's a very limited sample size. Let's keep that in mind. But where he looked at his best last week was in some of that play action stuff, right? The under center play action stuff, even though he was never under center in college. I think he's actually gotten pretty comfortable with that in a short period of time, which is good to see.
Yeah.
So I think you got to run the ball a ton. I saw somebody in the chat say over under 25 pass attempts for Zappe, assuming the game doesn't get out of hand, right? Assuming not they're never in a situation where like they have to pass for most of the game.
Yeah.
I think 25 is probably the high end. The number I've been saying all week is 15 to 20 if it's close, 20 to 25 if they end up behind a little bit. So I'd like to see them run the ball a lot from under center and use that to open up some of that play action stuff.
Yeah.
Because the one thing about this Detroit defense, they are aggressive. And I talked about this yesterday with Evan Lazar on the Catch 22 podcast, which people can check out on Patriots.com. That's going to be a weekly thing with me and him. There you go. And then check this. So I'll be here Tuesday, Patriots.com with Evan on Wednesday, back here on Thursday. Well, Monday or Tuesday here. With Evan on Wednesday, back here on Thursdays. They are very
Barth
aggressive.
Here with me.
Yes, they are very aggressive. Play action, draw, whatever it is. They bite hard on that initial read. So I think if they can do some of that under center run stuff, turn it into play action, that's probably their best bet to win the game.
Agreed. And again, I just think that they can't. Building off that, that's their best bet to win the game. And they also, if it gets down to it at the end, I just beg them to not play as scared, frankly, as they did at the end of the Green Bay game, because I could sit here and say it until I'm blue in the face, but I really think they had a chance to grab that one in Green Bay last week, and they just didn't. So they have to let Zappe. They can't be scared to let Zappe sling it if they have the opportunity to, because again, those play action passes last week worked. He had a couple really nice plays from the pocket. Did he have a couple bad ones? Sure. First game jitters. Full week of prep with Zappe at the helm. I think they have a chance to, exploit this terrible Detroit defense.
So that to me is the big question going into this game. We talked about it and I think we talked about it on Monday. I might have talked about it on Wednesday. I'm going to do that a ton here. But the big question, and we don't know. I mean, this is just they know, and we're going to find out. I get why they were super cautious with Bailey Zappe last week. I totally understand that.
Right.
Who knows how many reps he got in practice? It's his first time dressing in an NFL game at Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers on the other side comes into a close game. Like, I get it. You want to make sure the moment's not too big for him. You don't want to complete in total meltdown. But the circumstances are a little different here. You're at home. You're against the league's worst defense. He has a full week. You would assume behind the scenes has a full week, knowing he's the starter. You can open it up a little more. I'm not saying totally, cut the straps loose, but there should be more room to operate this week. Will there be? Or will they go back to what they did last week because that they believe that's the full extent of what Bailey Zappe can do, and that's why they did what they did last week, and that's why they were so cautious at the end of the game? We don't know. I mean, that's what this game's going to be about. That's the big question coming in that we're going to have to find out.
Right, and I want to clarify too that as much as I keep messing around with it on Twitter, Bailey Zappe this, Bailey Zappe that, let the kids sling it, spread offense. They have to run the football as much as possible this week in an effort to win, because Trent Brown was in it last week. He was revving up those engines, trying to, keep pounding the rock. Let's go. He'll get like that again this week. Marcus Cannon, if they get him going the way he looked really solid on the line last week too. They can win this game. They can win. They're going to have to win this game with their run game, but I'm just saying, don't play it scared either with Zappe there. So,
but I still think
go ahead.
Zappe or no, run the damn ball.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, again, damn ball.
Well, that's how they compete, right? They did it last week, and they competed last week against. We had talked about this either here. We get confused on our shows here too, but it was either here or on the Patriots postgame show on Sunday night. Just that the Packers are a good football team, and they competed and went to overtime with their third-string quarterback. Right. Because this team's actually not. Everyone, craps down the Patriots, right? They're not that bad here. They've played close games, and they have the opportunity to win one again here on Sunday against Detroit. So that's my spiel. Anything else on the offense before we switch over to defense?
Yeah, so if they do throw, and I kind of talked about this earlier, if they do throw a Zappe, I think you're going to see, and Jacoby Myers is healthy, and I know those are two whips, but it's kind of trending that way, right? Mm-hmm. There's a real opportunity there for success. I hope that if they are throwing, they're designing the game plan around Jacoby Myers, not just because he's been, it's because what Zappe's comfortable with, but the Lions slot corner is a guy named Mike Hughes. You might remember him. He was with the Chiefs last year. He's the guy that got absolutely cooked by Gabe Davis in that playoff game. And Gabe Davis is a pretty good player, but Mike Hughes maybe helped get him some of that hype because he hasn't been as good this year. So it's two things about Mike Hughes that stand out. First off, in coverage, he's been targeted 20 times this year through 4 games. He's allowed 16 catches for 240 yards, 15 yards of completion on, 75, 80% completions.
Yep.
So he's a guy you can throw on, especially because 5'10", 186, Jacoby's like 6'2", 210, big size advantage if he gets away from him. Secondly, they're, like I said, they're an aggressive defense in the way they pursue the ball, but also their calls. They have blitzed Mike Hughes a ton. They've sent Mike Hughes on a blitz 11 times in 4 games. That's an insane number for a cornerback.
From a cornerback. Yeah, that's insane.
Right. So what does that mean? That means free releases for Jacoby Myers. And what you want to do in that kind of quick hit spread offense, and coaches talk about this all the time when you run that, all systems, but especially in this system, it's called throwing into the blitz, right?
Yep.
You think you don't want to be at the blitz. No, if the corner's coming, that creates a void, right? Somebody's got to fall into that void. Just throw have Jacoby just quick hitch, right? 5 yards, turn around, boom, ball's right there, corner blitz, nobody to cover it. Like, if the Lions are going to send Mike Hughes, Patriots should cash in on that all day. Even if they don't send Mike Hughes, the Patriots should be able to take advantage all day. But if they're going to blitz Mike Hughes multiple times in this game, now Bailey Zappi has to recognize it. And this is where it's tough for a rookie corner. And you hope the offensive line helps him out. But that could be an area where they can really attack in the passing game, this Detroit defense. The variable here is, you look at who the Lions have faced thus far, the Vikings, and look, Adam Thielen, it's not what he was. He's still fine, but they're elite receivers on the outside. They face the Eagles, elite receivers on the outside. They played the Seahawks last week, elite receiver on the outside, and I'm missing one of their games, but it's another team with an elite receiver on the outside. Oh, it's the Commanders. Yeah, Terry McLaurin, right?
Yeah.
So Mike Hughes has been in the slot because the number one receiver has been on the outside. Now, they've shadowed Jeff Okudah, who was the 3rd overall pick 2 years ago,
Ohio State
on the number one receiver. Ohio State, nasty, great player in college.
Beast.
He's been banged up. He only played 10 games his first 2 years in the league.
I was going to say, people think he's a bust, but he's not a bust yet. He just hasn't had the opportunity.
He hasn't played. He's been the man this year. He locked up Terry McLaurin, no targets, no catches. He held, I'm going to get these two backwards, but between Justin Jefferson and Devonta Smith, one was 3 catches for 22 yards. One was 2 catches for 16 yards. The numbers look rough on DK last week. 3 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was like 70 yards.
I was going to say it was one big play. Yeah.
Right. He's basically in 4 games against 4 elite receivers. Okudah's gotten beat once. So the question is, they've shadowed him, right? He's not left side, right side. He's been with the other team's number one receiver. I honestly don't know why they didn't put him on A.J. Brown and Philly instead of Devonta Smith. But the reason I give you all this information here is, are they going to look at it if Jacoby's healthy and say, that's the guy we want to erase? That's going to be Jeff Okudah's assignment. Or even once the game starts, maybe Jacoby toasts Mike Hughes a couple times early on and they say, all right, we're making the change. We're going to put Jeff Okudah in the slot. Now, maybe they put him on Nelson Aguilar, who's been very good this year and been explosive this year. And I think that's, if you're the Patriots, you take that matchup. Let them erase Nelson Aguilar in a game where you're probably not going to throw down the ball down the field much, right? And keep eating in the slot. But that to me is the most damaging thing the Lions could do to the Patriots in terms of the matchup, is put Jeff Okudah in the slot on Jacoby Myers, because now you have to win with Bailey Zappi throwing the ball to the perimeter, and that becomes a little bit more challenging. So that's definitely something to watch in this game.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Alex. And that's something they have to be ready for, obviously, as
Matt Patricia. And I'm sure they're prepared for both situations.
I mean, if you're prepared for it, they are as well. But I'm saying, that's something that it sounds like, oh shit, they're going to have Jeff Okudah, lock up this one guy, and the Patriots. Like, no, you can get through that, but it's, it's something they have to be prepped for. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how they play it, and we'll see how the Patriots react to it. As we sit here and we, begrudge this Lions defense for being the worst defense in the league, The Lions also have the league's leading offense. So they average 35 points a game. I don't have the numbers in front of me anymore, but so the Lions on offense average 35 points a game, and they let up 35.3 touchdowns. They've scored, I want to say 12 touchdowns, and they've let up 13. They've scored, I don't know how many points, but then they've let up 1 point more. So like they are right there, neck and neck, shootout track meet football every single week.
They're middle of the league in point differential. They are the 15th, 16th, whatever it is, team in point differential.
So it's like it's right there. It's been neck and neck every week. They're a fun watch. I think this week's going to be different. We'll talk about that if we get into some, predictions ultimately down the line here. But Jared Goff, middling quarterback, actually finding some success playing from behind these last few weeks, and also having some pretty good weapons around him. And they sort of just let him sling it there, and he's finding success here. They have legit tackles in Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, and then they have a solid interior line in Frank Ragnow as well. So so that that offense can play. Swift is not going to play. Jamal Williams is going to, like we said, get thrust into that running back role again. They're going to pound the rock with him, and they're going to try and establish the run, and then let Goff pass when he has to. Not the same, but I guess it's a similar way the Patriots might play this game. So I'm interested to see how much they can lock up Jared Goff, because the last 2 times Belichick played Jared Goff, it was Goff's rookie year. The Rams were on an 0-7 streak to finish the year. It was the end of the Jeff Fisher era, and Goff and the Rams came to New England, and they just completely he had nothing to do.
Right.
The second time was Super Bowl 52 against the Rams. Is that 52? 53? 53. Yeah. Same thing. Belichick had Goff's number all day. Don't think third time's going to be the charm for Goff here. We'll see what happens, but thoughts on what they kind of do here.
So they also played in 2020, and Goff actually won that game. It was 24-3. That was, remember, they had the back-to-back in LA. They smoked the Chargers.
Oh, that was the Cam Newton year. Yep. Okay. Yep. You're right.
And look, the Rams won that game 24-3. Goff was pedestrian.
Yeah.
16-25, a touchdown and a pick.
Yeah. Cam threw a pick six at like the end of the half or something.
Yeah, on a screen. The point being that they've handled Goff pretty well. Yeah. That to me is the game plan.
Right.
They're the number 1 offense in the league in terms of points. They're the number 1 offense in the league in terms of yards. Their rushing offense is elite, number 1 in the league. Passing, they're 11th. So they're good, but they're not, they're better than most, but they're not great.
Yeah.
To me, and they're down multiple receivers. They're probably going to be down. Yep. They're going to be down at least one. I would be shocked at this point.
I don't think
if St. Brown plays right after missing 2 practices. They're down a couple of their tertiary guys as well. If you said Shark said today he's going to play, so he figures to be the number 1. But if I'm the Patriots, I stack the box 4-3, get big on defense, put Juwan Bentley in the middle, give me Anthony Jennings on one end, Dietrich Wise on the other, Godshaw, Barmore, rotate in Carl Davis, and say, beat us with Jared Goff throwing to DJ Chark. So get big in the box. Kyle Duggar with help over the top on TJ Hawkinson if he plays. And say, beat us with Jared Goff throwing to DJ Chark. I think you have to make that the game for them. Look, it's easier said than done. They still might be able to run the ball. I think taking away Hawkinson is huge. Taking him away is huge, and I think they realistically can do that. So do that over the top, stack that box, try to take away the run, and make Jared Goff beat you throwing the football to those wide receivers. I think that has to be the game plan for the Patriots, and they should be able to execute it. We'll see to what extent is kind of the question, but that's how I'd approach this. Get big 7-8 in the box, help over the top on Hawkinson, and go for it. Go ahead, Jared Goff. Go ahead. Let's see what you can do.
That's my point exactly too. Like kind of as I outlined that with the whole making Jared Goff beat you thing, right? That's what they're going to do. Stack it up. Defend the run as well as you possibly can. A guy like Jelani Tavai, even maybe in the middle a little bit, run stopper there.
Sure. This could be, and I'm going to get
this is another Tavai game.
I have said that it is a Miles Bryant game, and now I will say it is a Jelani Tavai game.
But I'm with you, and I'm the Tavai hater here, and I think it's a huge.
You put your best tacklers on the field. That's what you're doing 100%. This week.
Yeah. So let Goff try and beat you.
But again, I guess with the stipulation that, because I think that's what the Lions did last week, they sold out on the run, and it created some play action stuff where TJ Hawkinson ran wild. 8 catches. I think he had
Right.
170
He was a monster
yards,
last week.
maybe 180 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So sell out for the run with the caveat that you have to have an eye on TJ Hawkinson. And again, that's where I think having Kyle Duggar at close to 100% could be huge. Like he's potentially the pivot point in this game of just how well the Patriots defense performs. Huge. I know we said Miles Bryant game, we said Jelani Tavai game. Really, ultimately, defensively, it may be a Kyle Duggar game more than anybody else.
So let's do a quick exercise on that then, and let's. Okay, first of all, where do you think Jalen Mills is going to play? What can we assume on that?
I can't. That's a tough one. Sometimes I get a read on this. Sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they do with him like what they did with Duggar last week, where he's active and he plays maybe like 40% of the snaps just to kind of let him ease back into it. I don't think he's going to be like a 90-100% snap guy. Okay, there we go. There's my answer. I talked through it. I think he plays, but I think he's limited. I think he plays back.
Okay, so let's assume Mills is active. Let's assume Amon-Ra is not. How do they match this up against those Lions receivers?
Well, all right. Duggar, so again, we'll start with Duggar and Hawkinson.
Yeah, we'll do Duggar and Hawk. Lock him up with help over the top with McCourty and Phillips and those guys.
I don't know that there's many guys that scream for matchups. Like sometimes it's very specific. I guess you put I guess I'd go Jack Jones on DJ Chark with help over the top. Put John Jones in the slot, and then Jalen Mills. See, it's tricky because
Josh Reynolds, to think about it this way, Josh Reynolds is a 6'4" guy, and I want to say I can't remember how Chark is. I'm looking now. Chark's 6'4" as well, so they're big guys.
Well, but Reynolds is a burner, right? Reynolds is fast.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd go John Jones on Reynolds. I'd split Jack Jones and Jalen Mills on Chark. I might I was a little surprised I didn't play Shaun Wade last week. He was active, but he was a DNA healthy scratch. There's just I don't think that there's necessarily a wrong way to write it up if St. Brown doesn't play because none of these receivers are really that great.
Yeah.
If St. Brown plays, I'll tell you this: it's Sean Jones on St. Brown for sure.
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, right.
But yeah, all right. So I'll assuming he doesn't, I'll go with what I said before. Put John Jones on Josh Reynolds to match the speed. Jack Jones and Jalen Mills pooling on DJ Chark. You spell Jalen Mills so he can ease his way back in, and then I guess it's Miles Bryant or Marcus Jones or Shaun Wade on Khalif Raymond in the slot.
Works for me.
And then I
tend to agree again because like you go ahead.
No, I would just add because we talked about tight end. We normally do the running back too. DeAndre Swift's a threat out of the backfield. I don't know that Jamal Williams or any of those other guys are right. So I think you can probably get that handled with Mac Wilson or Adrian Phillips or Jabril Peppers. And I don't think you need to expend too much covering the backs in this game.
Yeah, it's not. Like I said, I guess we start the exercise, right? But then the more you talk it through, it's like, okay, without Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's not a huge matchup heavy game. It's cover these guys the best that you can. They're all kind of, I mean, they have different skill sets, I guess, but it's a similar, I don't know, they're similar guys. So it's not a scary, wide receiver core in general. So I guess that's good for the defense. Any overarching thoughts, maybe some predictions? I'll throw a prediction out before I hand it to you first.
Well, let's not forget special teams here. Bill called Jack Fox, the Lions punter, a weapon.
Yeah. Okay.
It was interesting last week to hear both Marcus Jones and Cam McCord kind of talk about they might have they might have just decided not to field the ball because they didn't want to risk it. They were playing super conservative. Is that something we see again this week? So, and even hearing Cam McCord talk about how sometimes they want touchbacks because of the returners. It's going to be Khalif Raymond is a pretty good returner. So I wonder if they're going to go super conservative on special teams again. I apologize. My mic's having issues. I personally can't tell. So
I hear it fine now. It went in and out a little bit earlier, but I got you fine now.
Okay.
So yeah, another one, special teams, like you said. I think that is it Jack Fox? Jack Fox? Do I have
Jack
that right?
Fox, yeah.
Yeah, he completed a pass last week. Obviously, assuming the next week the way Belichick preps special teams and the way they watch the film from last week, the Lions aren't going to run any trickery against the Patriots this week. But I guess you never know. We'll see what happens. But the two teams that I guess pride themselves a little bit more on special teams than anybody else does in the league.
Yeah.
So we'll watch out for all that too. As far as a quick betting angle, the Patriots are 3-point favorites and the total's at 46.5. When I went on 98.5 The Sports Hub with Adam Jones the other night, we talked a little bit about the gambling angle and the fact that there's this 3-point give to the home team, as always. So in theory, This is looking like it's an evenly matched game, according to the odds makers. The other thing that's interesting to me, though, is that the total is very low. The Lions, I want to say, have in their 4 games, there's been an average of like 71 points per game. The Patriots have averaged right around 43, 44.
Yeah.
So this tells me that, we use this saying a lot, but reading the tea leaves from the odds makers here, it's telling me that the Patriots and at -3 is the play because the odds makers think that the game's going to be played at their pace.
Well, the one other thing I wonder with that, though, is both teams are going to run the ball a lot. The clock's going to be running? Is there just not going to be enough time to score a lot of points, right? And that might not be playing the game the Patriots want. The Lions won't throw the ball if they don't have to. So I wonder if some of it too, like, I don't know if you can bet on this, Mike. I'm sure you find odds on anything.
You can find it.
What's the first game from the 1 o'clock window to go final? Because I bet you this game would be the favorite.
Yeah,
I bet you this game would be the favorite on that list.
But I think if the game's played that way, it's going to be a Patriots win because they like to play that way more. So I mean, clearly the Lions like to score points, and granted they're 1-3, so I guess. But the
Lions want to run the ball. If the Lions never get into a situation where they have to pass, they're doing pretty well. It's also we've seen how the Patriots have been in close games and with the third string quarterback,
right?
Yeah. But I would bet this game. We might be done at 3:15 on Sunday. Like, it's going to fly by.
Yeah, it'll fly. You can check out my full prediction and, gambling preview and whatnot at clnsmedia.com.
Wait, so hang on. Let me ask you this. What was the over-under again?
45.5.
45.5. So let's call that 46 points. Patriots are favored by 3.
Yep.
So the odds makers are saying, because you can kind of get the final score out of that, right? So if it's 46 points combined, split evenly would be 23.
24, 22, 24, 21.
So the odds makers are basically
around there.
Like, they're saying like 24, 20, or 24, 21 is what they're saying. Yep. They're saying it's going to be a 24-21 game.
Yep. Patriots. My prediction here, I guess, I mean, you can read it in full, but my prediction at the end of it all, 24-20 Patriots. I say Patriots -3 is a pick, and the total goes under. I think that's what we're looking at here. Any closing thoughts on that before we get into? I guess we can talk quick Thursday Night Football, but I want to open this up to the chat too because I want to answer some questions.
Look, throwback game, man. It's good. We've seen those helmets all week. I got to hold one today. That was pretty cool.
That's
it. Man, I hope they win. 11-1 in the throwbacks since they stopped wearing Pat Patriot, undefeated at home in the throwbacks. They got to keep that going, man. It's gonna be cool. The big question, right, is what's going to be at midfield? Is it going to be Pat Patriot? Is it going to be Flying Elvis? I can't imagine they change. They're being very close to the vest about this. Like, everybody I ask, nobody has an answer.
Saying it. Okay. So my thing with that is a lot of college teams now.
Yeah.
I guess you see it in basketball a lot, but you also see it in college football. When they change their uniforms, they change everything.
Right.
They change the banners at the stadium. They change the banners on the inside of the stadium around the first row. They change the paint. I don't know what the Patriots. I was going to say the Patriots haven't done that in the past, though. I don't think. I can't really remember. But
so they didn't always do that in the past, but it's a like league initiative now. It's
exactly.
going to look super weird if they change everything else and not the end zones in midfield. To me, I think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
The real question is, if you go back to those eras, right? You watch the games, the end zone was red. It was a red background with the Patriots font in it. So that, to me, I think we're going to see Pat Patriot at midfield. I think we're going to see that old school, like the 70s word mark, right?
Yeah,
in the end zone. The question to me is, will it be just on green, like how they usually have it, or will they paint the entire end zone red? That's going to be interesting.
This sounds like a Sunday where me and Alex will both be there at the stadium. This sounds like me and him are going to be knocking at the door to we'll be the first ones there trying to get the first picture out on
I'm
Twitter
getting there
to check
early on
out
Sunday.
what that field looks like on Sunday. So it'll be
Well,
exciting for
let's
sure.
be honest. Mike Reese will beat us, but I'll be
Yeah, that's fair. But
yeah,
I'll be there early as well. You guys have heard my hot take on here. I said it last week. Not huge on the jerseys themselves. I love the helmets, but the helmet mixed with the jersey, mixed with the excitement, waiting to see this field and the banners. I can't lie. I can't even lie to you and say that I'm not pretty fired up to see it all. So,
yeah.
I guess we can get some questions trickling in here. We'll open up the Q&A section, and I can kind of facilitate that and see what questions you guys all have in the chat. But as they trickle in quickly, we also have Thursday Night Football coming up tonight. We have the Colts at the Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 3. What do you have any thoughts on that? What do you think about tonight's game too? No Jonathan Taylor for the Colts.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad football. I can't wait.
Yeah, it is.
I just
do you see what Brady said too?
Yeah,
Brady said there's been a lot of bad football around the league lately, and he's not wrong. I mean, this league is very, very top heavy right now.
Well, this is what happens when you basically don't let teams practice. And look, I get why they do it, but this is what happens.
No, yeah.
I just can't wait to see what Nathaniel Hackett's going to do. Like, it's worse. He had to hire somebody to basically manage the timeouts, the play calling, all that. He basically hired somebody to be the head coach. I don't know what exactly is left that Nathaniel Hackett's doing that this other guy he hired isn't. But, I hope he blows it tonight somehow, some way. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. My pick is ultimately Broncos -3. I hate it because I hate watching this Nathaniel Hackett football team, but I don't know about the Colts without Jonathan Taylor either, so we'll see. First question,
Where's the game?
It's at Denver.
I'll take that. Road team rarely wins on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah,
I kind of always just fall back on that.
I'm double checking that, but I do believe it's in Denver.
No, it is in Denver. I just looked. You're right. It's in Denver.
You got it. Okay, cool. So
so road team rarely wins on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind in that high altitude change. So I like Denver tonight. Let's take a look at some questions in the chat. With this first one being something we didn't really touch on when we talked offense too much. We touched a little bit on Jacoby, but we didn't touch a lot on the rest of the position.
Yeah.
Will Kendrick Bourne get more playing time on Sunday?
I don't think this week, just because again they're going to want to run the ball, and they seem to like to have LJ on the field when they run the ball, so they can because he's a better blocker. I think when Mac comes back, you're going to see KB play more because he was playing more over those first 3 weeks until Mac got hurt. I think they're starting to understand the value of him playing more. The wild card here, though, so I say that assuming things stay the same, they're not going to stay the same. Tyquan Thornton's going to come back.
Right.
Bourne's the 4th guy in the totem pole right now. He's probably the most similar player stylistically. So it does feel like Thornton's going to get some of his snaps. Now, I think they're going to ease Thornton in. I don't think Thornton's going to take a ton of his role right away, but I think he's going to play more initially. Once Thornton comes back, though, he might dip again. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, we got one here that says, just touch on Thornton, please, but we literally just did. So
yeah, we did earlier in the show.
Yeah, we talked about it too. Check it out.
I don't think he's fully 100% yet. I think he's healthy enough to practice in a limited capacity. There's a big difference between taking part in a walkthrough and playing in an NFL game. So I think he'll be back when he's ready. It's going to be within 3 weeks, but I think we're probably still a week or two away from fully having that conversation about him being on the active roster.
Yeah, I agree. We got one here on Bailey Zappi this week. Will they trust Zappi to throw if they have to? Short routes, crossers. I think they already did this last week. I think they did trust him on a few crossers here, a couple short routes when they had to. But my problem the whole time has been I feel like they just didn't do it when they had to, right? They had their opportunities on some play action, on some crossing routes. He had a couple to Aguilar. Obviously, he had the touchdown, which I believe was a crossing route, all the way across the field from Devontae Parker. So they trusted him to do some. I just want to see I want to see him trusted more this week.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we talked about before, right? How much more they're really going to let him do.
Right.
I do think it's mostly going to be that quick hitter stuff. I think that's where they trust him the most.
Yeah. You'll like this one. Is this offense missing having a fullback?
They ran the ball well the first 2 weeks. So I don't think that's exactly the reason they're struggling to run the ball. It would certainly help in that regard, but you're putting a fullback on the field. They already don't have enough snaps for other wide receivers. My hot take when I was on with Evan yesterday, again on Patriots.com, shameless plug, was that they should potentially, at least, especially if Jonnu's hurt, right, go to 10 personnel. With LJ as kind of that hybrid wide receiver tight end, or even if and when Ty Montgomery comes back, go 0-0. So there's definitely certain times where you look at it and you're like, man, I wish I had the fullback right now. But I think on a whole, the way the personnel's set up, yes, it would be nice to have a fullback, but the pros outweigh the cons of not having one right now.
The offense they wanted to run at the start of the season didn't require a fullback. They wanted to change this up. They wanted to, spread it out a little bit more, let Mac throw when he can. Now, with Mac hurt, the type of football they want to win with now, with their backups and, essentially inch themselves to a win, I guess a fullback would make more sense now. But at the end of the day, I don't think they necessarily miss it because that's not the kind of football they want to play anymore. Let's mix last, and we got to wrap soon because we got another show coming up on CLNS YouTube at 8:15. But quickly, we'll mix uniforms from for this weekend with last week's Thursday night football game. Did you like the Bengals' white jerseys and uniforms last week?
They were cool. I don't want to see them regularly. Like once
they're good for a Thursday night.
Yeah, perfect Thursday night jersey. Yes.
Yeah.
Although it did sort of look like I didn't like the all white B at midfield. It looked like they ran out of ink.
Yeah, I agree. It looked funky. But I love the white helmets. And it's ironic that as soon as helmets are starting to change, I believe this one shell rule that the NFL put was due to concussions and having one shell. As soon as they change the rule and they start infiltrating it in, boom, Tua goes down and all this, comes up again.
Tua was wearing the team's regular helmet. And
right. No, of course. I'm not saying that was the reason, but I'm just saying it's funny.
No, I get what you're saying, but I will point the study that the one shell rule was based on was actually debunked like 2 years after they put it into practice. The real reason I think this is kind of like a conspiracy theory thing. The real reason that the one shell rule existed is for a while there, they weren't limiting. Remember, Tom Brady had that old helmet. It was called the VS4, the one that had the little raised part in the middle. So
just the circles on the side. Yep.
Right. So basically, and there were a couple helmets like that. There was the old Revolution one. Remember, Michael Bennett wore it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Companies stopped making those helmets, yet players were still wearing them. So they became incredibly expensive to get. So if you need two instead of one, it was becoming a problem. It was basically a way for the NFL to limit their helmet expenses. And then eventually, in a move that actually probably did help the concussion thing, they started making certain helmets illegal. Like those older helmets, they actually made it, they said players couldn't wear them anymore because they were too dangerous. Now all the helmets the players are wearing are in regular production, so it's easier to get them. And that sort of facilitated the move back.
Yeah, remember those Zenith helmets that came about? I'm pretty sure the first ever Zenith is now. It's like the very first Rydell VS4, and I think the first Zenith is also
right. That was the Ray Rice wore that. Ray Rice and Joe Flacco. They also remember the one. A bunch of the Giants players wore it. Ocho Cinco wore it when he played here.
Yes, and it had the things on the side.
The Ion 4D with the thing coming out. Those are ugly, man.
We could talk helmets all the way.
There's a Twitter account called Helmet Stalker. If you go way back on their account. I think you can Google they retest it every year. They actually rule out. I don't know if they rule out helmets every year, but every year the helmets have to repass certification. There's a chart.
There's this whole chart. It charts them out all. Oh yeah, I'm a helmet guy too, Barth. You'll like this, and you'll see it right behind me. This Worcester State Lancers helmet has the Marcus Mariota 808 face mask on it. I wore that my junior and senior year of college. So
full disclosure, I think it's annoying when people who aren't from Hawaii wear that face mask.
Aloha, baby.
But because that was the whole thing when
it's
they
so
introduced
cool,
that
though.
face
it's awesome.
mask.
No, I get it. It's the area code. Yeah.
You might be too young though. When Marcus Mariota first wore that, and it was 808, he was like the whole Hawaiian quarterback thing and the whole Hawaiian football thing is like kind of mainstream now with Tua and his brother and all that.
Right.
This was like. It was like there's this guy coming from Hawaii. Players from Hawaii only played for Hawaii. They didn't play anywhere else. He's in Oregon and he's this dynamic player, Heisman candidate. And they came out with the 808, which was the zip code of Honolulu. It was like so cool. And I like Baker Mayfield's wearing it.
I was going to say, you're not a fan of me and Baker wearing it anymore?
Baker Mayfield doesn't exactly scream tropical paradise.
Geno Smith wears it too. Because they updated it for the Speed Flex now too.
So at one point they had it. So the Air XP, which is the helmet that looks most like the old football helmet, like you think of. It's the one that's almost entirely smooth, right? Mariota originally wore it with that. And it was really looks like 808. Like That was the best. But yeah, so that's nothing against you for wearing it, but that's,
of course.
I didn't even know if you might have been too, I didn't know if you even knew the backstory of it, of why that's a thing. Yeah, it's because it's Marcus Mariota zip code there. All right, let's see it. Let's see it. There we go. Yeah. All right. You got to have the visor. The guys who wear the 808 with the visor, that also bugs me. I just think it looks weird. Yeah. So there you go. Little helmet talk for everybody.
Yeah. All right. We do have to wrap though. We got 3 minutes until the next show coming up here. Barth, thank you for taking this last hour and 10 with me. As always, it's a pleasure.
Of course.
Me and Alex, I'll be back Sunday for Patriots postgame. We'll see if Alex can grab in the rotation as well. We'll be back twice again next week. We will recap this game and preview the next on the next day. So Pats Lions at 1. Me and Alex will also both be there as well. Make sure you check out all of Alex's coverage on 985thesportshub.com. You can follow him on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. You can check out my stuff at CLNSmedia.com. I posted my game preview today, gambling preview as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Kadlick for all my written stuff as well. So that's that for today. We will see you guys next week. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a good night.